And we're live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Holy Crap, the Vlogcast. Vlogcast that comes from a skeptical point of view to answer the questions of why. This vlogcast started as a combination of spite and the Streisand effect because people on Facebook need to be explained what facts mean and how to reason because it's not taught nearly enough in, well, my country, apparently. Part of this is to follow through with the old adage, sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. I'm your main host. I'm known as Shujin Tribble all over the place. You can find me under pretty much any social media under that. And yes, I am back to wearing my blue hat again because, well, we don't do the national anthem here, so I got to have some way of showing my solidarity for everybody other than. Our hosting system right now is a little bit broken. I'll explain in a moment. From just north of the border, across the water, into Canada. Good morning, Heretic Woman.
Good morning. And ironically, I'm wearing my Make America Great Cheese Again shirt, so there you go.
Proudly from Wisconsin.
Yes, indeedy.
It is. Oh, and surprisingly enough, I was not expecting this all of a sudden. So, apparently just back from almost the dead. Good morning, Joey. Who is still muted at the moment.
There he goes.
The other mute button.
Yeah, I was going to say, your headset's probably muted. Or he has no voice and he's fiercely doing sign language that we can't see.
Well, we'll see what you're getting. You're getting pings. Oh, you mean you're getting the vocal pips? Yeah, we had that happening with Heretic Woman just a little while ago too. All right, give it. Keep trying.
It took what, a minute or two for me. So, he's gonna come back.
Okay, so we'll do it from there. By the way, for those of you that are watching live, yeah, we're having a moment right about now. So, Stephanie, hi, do see you over there in the live chat. Joey, I think I heard audio for you this time. Yes?
Maybe.
Yes. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Good to have you. I was getting a little worried.
Come to find out that both the USB ports on the front of my computer are busted.
That's annoying.
I had to do a lot of USB port swapping with the headset a couple days ago, and apparently it never updated for Hangouts, so...
Of course not.
Okay.
That would be too easy if, you know...
Yeah.
So that's the way it's going to be. No worries. And over on the live chat, yes, Stephanie's over there tripping full. Hi, guys. Yeah, we have a very truncated grouping right now. It's a combination of people got things to do, places to be, and health to reacquire, apparently. So right now it's us. Although we did put out the word to a bunch of other podcasters and personalities and basically said, hey, we're on in about 10 minutes and we're going to be on for about 2 hours. So here's the link. Feel free to join us.
We put out the holy crap signal.
Yes. I'm sorry. I'm now thinking what the holy crap signal would be. It's probably the old logo with the old flying spaghetti monster on the.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, you could use the new logo. It says HCTV on it.
It does. It does, and that works out good. And funny enough, we can always thank the guy who designed it.
We could, yes. Who might actually be listening at this moment.
Actually, he is. He's
I
right
know.
there on the camera right now.
I see that. Well, no, that's his avatar, but close enough.
Yeah, close enough. Hi, Joe.
Yeah, the webcam's not been working great lately.
No, it's perfectly fine. Don't worry about it. So yeah, we got people who are sickly, not feeling good, got places to be. It happens. Don't worry about it. I'm still here, even though I had a really crappy day yesterday at the end of my day. Otherwise, the rest of my day was pretty cool. I will give a big old thumbs up to the nice folks over there at Lionsgate, as well as Allspark and DHX. Thank you for entertaining me twice yesterday. Meaning Friday. Some people know what I'm talking about. Some people don't need to be explaining. Yeah, I watched the damn movie. Whatever. What are you listening to now? Did you just listen to us?
I opened up the YouTube channel so that I could pop out the chat and be able to see what the chat's doing.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Anyway, so we will see. We will see who will join us tonight. Actually, I did not turn on the audio for myself over on the Discord channel. I don't know that I'm going to do that right now.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you have that.
I do, but
I'm not opening that.
No, that's okay.
I got enough things going on my computer right now.
Not a worry, but we will see. For what it's worth, one of the names that we did try to get over with us, and no names, but he basically said, I have a prior engagement, and he didn't say piss off in so many words, did he?
Wait, who?
Heretic Woman?
All right, I was talking to somebody who might be joining us.
Yeah, the guy that you tried to get in touch with earlier, who said he was otherwise occupied. He didn't say piss off in quite so many words, did he?
No, in fact, I've booked him for my show on Monday instead.
Mother Humper.
You know, opportunity knocks.
That's great.
And he did say, he said if he wasn't already at a show, which I'm assuming probably a movie, he said he would have loved to have been that short notice guy, but he's otherwise engaged.
Okay, well, we will see what happens. But in any case, and over on the Discord side, hey Layla, thank you very much. All right, so we'll see how this turns out tonight, because this is going to be a little on the weird side, because it is what it is. Don't sweat it. And for those of you other co-hosts who listen later or watch later, and you think, oh, I should have been... No. Told you. You have things. Don't worry. Cut it out. I'll fire your ass. Maybe. Anyway. Let me get everything rolling over here as we should normally. So your 5-minute freestyle tonight. You're going to love this one. Keep watching Heretic Woman's camera. You might get a slight kick out of this one. Your time starts right now. I labeled it Man of the Manure. And actually, it was supposed to be sort of a little bit more of a play of Man of the Hour or Man of the Manor. I don't know what the hell it is, seriously, recently with... There's no other wording for it. The term is accurate. Shitlords. Really, what in the hell is the point? People want to go ahead and they want to drive people up a wall for no other reason other than, as we once heard before in a movie, some people just want to watch the world burn. Why? Seriously, what is the point? Why would you go and do that? I mean...
Because fire is pretty.
Maybe there's something to be said for it.
Fire is my friend.
Maybe there is a place for edgelords and shit posters and trolls to go ahead and show us all that, you know, everything's crazy, and they're trying to show off what we would otherwise call the argument of absurdity, and show, you know, you take everything to its absolute comic conclusion, you see what it is that you got. Got news for you. You're not doing anybody any favors. You're really not. How can I prove this one? Well, I can prove this one really easily. It's simple. Who remembers who the shitlords are? Oh, sure, yeah, there are plenty of people that we can point to over in the YouTube circles, especially in the Christian circles. I mean, come on. We just heard that Venom Fang X is finally back again, but he's changing the way that he looks, and he's reverbing his sound, and he's making himself all kinds of edgy kind of... But we know what he is. He's comic relief. He's the type of person who believes his own drivel because, well, he believes himself to be that important. Meanwhile, the rest of the world around him is basically going, dude, except for a very small slice of people that kind of will follow anybody that's waving a red flag behind them, nobody's taking you seriously. You're a joke. That's all it comes down to, man. You're a shit poster for what good reason? Because you can. Ooh, you get people upset with you. Ah, isn't that wonderful? Isn't that nice? What's the point? Seriously, what's the purpose of the whole damn thing? Are you trying to stir up shit? Because, I mean, we can just as easily just block your ass anyway. We can mock you mercilessly. And before you go ahead and start saying, well, any attention is good attention. No. No, it's not. See, maybe, just maybe, part of it is because I've gotten older. And in my old age, I look back at it all and I think to myself, what the hell is the point? I mean, if you're going to go ahead and you're going to spout something, why not have a point that helps move the narrative along? That helps people to understand a position better, that maybe you can get the point across of how you feel about something other than just to poke at a hornet's nest. Seriously. You got a point to make it. There's other expressions for the whole damn thing, but I'm going to wrap up early tonight just by saying, you want to be a shit poster, you want to go ahead and make people think about things, you're not helping. Shit or get off the pot. Make a point. Stick to it. As it is, the rest of us, we're just brushing you off because, really, unless you come up with something worthwhile for us to discuss, we got nothing to talk about with you. It's episode 182 on the docket, Your Honor. Overloaded. Truth be told, recently I've been having a really, really hard time trying to come up with topics for the show. And a lot of it has got to do with feeling absolutely overwhelmed with everything that's been going on in the news. Trying to find a way of taking something that's been going on and, well, trying to find something that's a little bit more generic to talk about. Because I've said many occasions, I don't want this to be a show about the United States. I want this to be about us as humans and how we talk and how we discuss and how we deal with ourselves and each other and topics. But there's just so much shit that's been piling on top of everything else. I can't really keep track of what the hell is going on outside of the US. And it's really, really been tough for me. So I figured, what the hell, why not just go ahead and talk about how do we get out from underneath this absolute morass? Find something worthwhile to discuss. So we got some folks that are going to be joining us in a couple of seconds. But right before I go ahead and do that, Heretic Woman, the only thing that I saw about Raif Badawi was someone had won an award in his name just this last week, and I forget who it was, somebody in Germany.
I totally missed that because I was traveling again, so I completely missed that.
Yeah, it basically comes down to there's unfortunately, as usual, no real news on Raif Badawi and his condition, which, as we've said, and we'll keep saying, is unfortunately going to be much more the norm than not.
Although if you listen to Azra Namani, she apparently thinks that Trump's going to have him sprung lickety-split.
Good. You know what? I'm gonna blow the F-bomb right away. Good fucking luck.
Yeah. Well, she also said she thinks that Saudi Arabia allowing women to drive was Trump's doing as well, so... Yeah. Lovely lady, but she's kind of nuts.
Probably so. So as of the recording of tonight's show, this is now 5 years, 3 months, 21 days since Raif Badawi was unjustly incarcerated for thought crimes. Our thoughts, our hopes, still with you and your family. We're hoping for you, man. Joining us tonight, surprisingly enough, from Paris, France. Why the hell aren't you asleep, Joseph?
Monsieur.
Hello, good morning.
Yes.
We told you to get some sleep, dude. What the fuck?
Well, I said if you guys were...
yes, and I said
vertically challenged
is much
vertically
more important.
Okay, my entire life is vertically challenged, okay? I do fine.
Well, I was going to say short, but, you know, If you got the short, it's not the same short, is it?
No.
I don't know.
Give me a second to wake up.
You go ahead and do that.
Guzzle some coffee.
You do that. And
all the way from Minnesota, because I just love saying that, Ms. Maddy Love, who is a co-host of Atheist Talk Radio and also a host of the Trans-Atheist podcast. Good evening.
Hi, how you doing?
Nice to join us.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So this is my other show. Well, it's not really my show. It's Shujin's show, but
it's our show.
Our show. Okay. Yeah, this is the other thing. I know, huh? Well, they already make fun of me that I tend to have too many projects to talk about at the end of the show. So
she's very sneaky.
I try because, well, yeah, you guys don't even know I'm actually in the works for a new one. So
See,
expanding the list again soon. But yes, Maddy was very happy to come and pop in and join us when I was like, "Hey, you're here. Come and talk to us."
Yeah, so, and I get to get up in a few hours and go back on the radio. So.
Yeah, brilliant. Oh, that's right. Yeah, they have their radio shows during church hours. I think that's on purpose, isn't it?
I wasn't around when it was set up, but I think probably yeah. Sunday mornings, 9 o'clock local time.
That's okay. I mean, the whole reason why this show was set up to be started at 12:05 Eastern time is because of the whole coast-to-coast AM broadcasting, and I wanted to counterculture that entirely. You know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah, I used to work nights, and it was like, oh my God. I was like the only thing that was on, and that was pre, podcasts and pre MP3 players. It was just, just cassette tapes or CD players.
Yep.
So, are you going to introduce your co-host?
Momentito. Well, we have, of course, the Shujin Tribble, host extraordinaire, and then from the wilds of Pennsylvania, we have Joseph, who goes by Joey. And then from Paris over there, we have Joseph, who's just Joseph. But he's not just Joseph. He's the Joseph. But,
And I hate being called Joey.
I was actually addressing Maddy, whose co-host was on the screen a moment ago and now isn't.
Oh, I missed that. Was there a fur baby or a person in the background?
Oh, is that my kitty that you saw in the background? Or did you see the Dodgers Arizona game is on in the background as well?
It's all bloomed out, so can't really tell what the hell it is. But yes, I was referring to the cat. And Shujin, you asked a question earlier.
Which one?
Is there a place in the world for the ship posters and such?
Go on.
I say yes. Yes, there is. It's called the box. Now, you can take that one of two ways. You can call it the hot box, which, a few months in the hot box is nobody's idea of a picnic. Or you could take it as the box.
See, and me, I'm thinking the box. Box is the name of my computer. Named after the computerized mobile guy that was freezing people in the movie Logan's Run.
Ah, yes.
Just remember.
Remember. Did you hit your mute button again?
No.
Okay.
Just remember.
You need an echo effect when you say that.
Just remember. Oh, the box.
I have no idea. Anyway, over on the live chat at the moment, which is over on that side of the screen for you right now, Aubrey, thank you. Yes, I know Venom Fang X is long and sordid history. Maybe we'll go into that someday. Yeah, that's just going to be the way that it is. So like I said, normally I try to have the shows set up.
Sorry, trying to get microphone to work again. Apparently I succeeded.
Okay.
That looks so good. So like I said, I try to get the show announcement done midweek, usually around Wednesday. The last couple of weeks, it's been really, really, really tough to come up with anything before Saturday. And I'm really, really trying hard to make that happen. So this works out to be a little bit more interesting because I know full well that Heretic Woman, I know full well when you're trying to set up your shows, you have occasionally said, I got to put out my announcement because my show's going to be in like 2 days. I gotta get that done a day later.
Yep.
But it's the way that it is. And Maddy, being on actual broadcast, I have to imagine you guys have got at least some help and assistance in making sure that timing is set up. You know what's supposed to be going on. You've got a schedule. You've got whoever's supposed to be on duty. Because, FCC regs, amongst other things, and it's a whole business, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we are actually scheduled out through early January right now, and we've got a number of people on a waiting list that we've talked to and said, hey, if somebody drops out, can you fill in with a week's notice or 2 weeks notice, So that helped, because otherwise it's it goes on and we could always broadcast a past show, but it's going to give a broadcast.
You scheduled me in somewhere, I forget when.
October 22nd.
That's right. It's on my calendar, but because I have all my shit running, so I don't have the calendar open. But yes.
I don't either. I just remember, when you have a guest as awesome and spectacular as you, that brings so much to the table, you tend to remember those bright spots in your life.
Yeah, I hear you.
I'm sorry, Maddy, I was talking about shit posters, not bullshit posters. Thank you very much. And you can't actually say that because we're not FCC regulated on this.
Yes.
I know, it's so fucking nice.
Thank you.
You can say that. Yeah. Well, we used to sort of try to be more PG, but we kind of don't so much anymore.
We try, but at the same time, we know full well that sometimes you need the explicatives, and it's just the way it is. Speaking of explicatives, joining us from mystery guest, sign in, please.
They walked away from the camera.
No, I told them to no camera is necessary. Louis.
Oh, okay.
Hello, this is Louis.
There you are.
He's
I don't know if my mic is working appropriately, but I'm trying.
Yes.
Perfect.
It sounds good.
Wonderful.
And he's a very attractive radio.
Yeah, that's just a radio that I saw at a yard sale, and I thought it was, really pretty. So I took a picture.
It's
Those
cool.
console radios, they are actually rather lovely. The woodwork, and this is going to sound wrong coming over the air, but yeah, I understand. It's usually measured in megacycles, so you know how old that is. Maddy's probably nodding and going, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Oh no, I'm only 20.
Fuck you.
I'm just fine. I'm just kidding. I'm 40.
Anyway, so to kind of fill folks in, Louis and I have been over on Jake's show, the Imaginary Friends show, which that website doesn't exist anymore, but that's a whole other thing. So Louis, give everybody a quick intro for yourself.
All right. Well, I am an atheist and skeptic who tries to put into practice humanist philosophy in my day-to-day life. I try very hard to engage with other people and use what activism I do for good.
Works out fine. So now that we've got everything, now that we've actually got something that approaches like a good set, now comes the hard part. The news cycles. Like I said, it's been really, for me, really, really, really tough. And I will admit, I don't put nearly as much effort into this show as a lot of others do. And I'm never going to lie about that. I will admit, this is kind of a pastime kind of thing. All right, I don't take it quite as seriously as other people. Oh, well, whatever. But there are certain points of professionality I try to follow through with. Not the least of which is trying to figure out how to parse what's been going on, because the news cycles, as we know full well, are 25 hours long at this point. And there's just so much that's been going on. How the hell do we try to find a way through it so that we don't overload and not want to do anymore? Because it's like, what the hell? What's the freaking point? So I don't know who wants to be dealing at any one point, because well, let me give you something to work off of, because the stuff that went on with the supposed convention this past week, I don't know jack shit about it. I will admit, I will be the first to admit it. I have no clue what in the hell went on, except for the most basic of outlines of how crappy and shitty things were. Honest and truly, I really don't know. And I couldn't be bothered, because all I know is that there was a huge uproar. I don't know. And I really don't need to know. That's how it's gotten to me at this point. Even though I think to myself, I should probably know. I don't care. Right now, I don't care.
But you realize that anybody not aware of what you're talking about has no idea what you're talking about.
Well, that's why I was going to kind of go down over to the yellow section.
Yeah, because I was kind of there for the fun. Yeah, so this was the Mythicist Milwaukee Myth Information Conference that those of you who may not pay so much attention to the goings-on of more visible atheists, I guess you could say, there was some people who had been invited to speak at the conference who had questionable
credentials
and ideas and histories. One in particular had a pretty shitty history as far as how he treats people that he interacts with online. And there were a lot of people that felt that those people shouldn't be invited. And the organizer said that, well, that's too bad. They wanted controversial people, and kind of a big kerfuffle ensued before the thing even happened. Some people were trying to get the venue shut down and just all kinds of stuff. And a lot of it, there were some of us that, we already had tickets and flights booked and whatever. And I kind of went, well, I'm going to go see what happens. And the person in particular that got the most objections, I went to their debate, and I was somewhat familiar with them in the first place, but I thought, well, we'll go see what happens. And they turned out to be the complete and utter asshole that everybody accused them of being. And there was lots of conflict during the actual debate. There was a little bit of conflict at the after party. Someone confronted the objectionable person and was thrown out of the party, and all kinds of all around nasty things. That's the short version.
Yeah, as an aside, by the way, Stephanie is pointing out, and correctly so, I did hear about this. Matt Dillahunty has done a podcast about it from his viewpoint.
Yes, I've seen that.
I have.
Yeah. He put out about an hour-long video discussing, because he did go. There were some other prominent people who were invited who later decided that they should not go, and I absolutely respect their decisions. And Matt talks about why he did go and what his assessment of that time is. And also, Richard Carrier has put out a very good piece on what went on in his blog, as did Karen Gorder-Garst, who writes the Faithless Feminist blog. She put her piece out, I think today, actually. So, yeah.
Callie Wright of the Atheist Manifesto did a interview with the organizers.
Yes, beforehand. Yes.
Yep.
Yes, thank you for reminding me. And she really tried to, because they were highly criticized for their stance that basically they didn't care that this person was a total asshole and they wanted fresh blood in the conference scene, and he is an entertainer because he has a huge following and yada yada yada, and they totally doubled down on all criticism, and they have since doubled down on it again. And yeah, their reasoning on the surface, you might think, okay, they want to inject new blood into the conference scene and try something fresh and new and whatever, but there's better ways of doing that, people. And when a good number of people say, look, we think your choice of guests is reprehensible, that, you know, instead of doubling down on it, maybe at least attempt to listen, maybe might be a good thing. But
yeah, that's the thing. There's two pieces about this, by the way. Again, over in the chat, Trippin is saying the fourth or fifth time hearing about this. Yeah, see, that's part of the problem.
Yes,
I'm trying to make sure that even though this has been like super, super big in the news, I want to make sure that we're dealing with this from a very different perspective compared to everything else. So I know it's been out there a lot. So just give us just a couple of minutes to make sure that you see that, yeah, we're not just rehashing the old stuff. The other piece of it is, you can go ahead and you can say, well, you know, a whole bunch of people are saying that these are not good people and maybe you should listen, but then again, that works on the other side of the equation too.
It does, yeah. And part of my reason, I mean, aside from the fact that I already had plane tickets and whatnot that I went, I was somewhat familiar with all of the parties that were being objected to, but I was interested to see, number one, if they had, you know, changed anything about their views or, you know, anything was different. And with the main objected to person, he wasn't just there speaking, but there was another podcaster who was the like polar opposite in viewpoint that was there to challenge everything that he said, which, you know, it sounded good. It didn't go as maybe we hoped it might have, but I was interested to see how that challenge was going to play out. And so, you know, I was interested to see it, but once it happened, I was like, yeah, no, that was not how that should have gone.
Yeah, there's always going to be. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, when the organizers, they play the popularity card, you know, they want to deal drama and all that for, like, you know, hype and all that. That rarely ends well.
Exactly.
And that's a total wrong route to go for anything that's remotely intellectual. I mean,
the reasoning behind it had some validity.
Reasoning is in air quotes, I think.
Yes, the execution was abysmal.
Wow, with the way that things have been going in the news, don't use that word anymore right now, unless you're specifically talking about Doctor Who references. In which case, that's a whole other thing.
Abysmal or reasoning? Which word?
I was going to go with execute, but sure, yeah, we'll leave the other word. Maddie, let me. Yeah, Maddie, let me pull you in on this one just a second. From
about Doctor Who?
Well, actually, sure. Yeah, we'll. Yeah,
Maddie's a fellow nerd, just so you know.
That's perfectly no. From the standpoint of someone who is doing actual on-air broadcast, it's got to be really, really tough. Since we mentioned earlier that, you know, you've got your stuff planned out months in advance. When for lack of a better way of putting it, when shit hits the fan like this, and there is something that is an amazingly huge flash that could really be really important to cover, how do you even do deal with something like this? Is this something that you have to run past somebody in like a in charge of, I don't know, your news production, your scheduled production, to try to figure out, should we cover? How much should we cover? Should we just leave it over to something else?
Well, thankfully, the gal that was on when I was on with Deborah's show is my executive producer, and she's the one that sets the schedule. And what we do is Hertzie and I and the rest of the team, like, we leave ourselves out. So we've got days like this. Tomorrow is Ask an Atheist kind of thing, like not the awesome super atheist experience out of Austin type show, but more like, you know, people can call in, but in between callers and emailers, we can talk about whatever we want to talk about. And so that gives us time to like catch up on news events and to do roundtable discussions and really get our point of view out. Does that answer your question?
It does, and it sounds like that you guys have got a lot more of a buffer than I originally was thinking that you actually had.
Well, the second Sunday of every month, we don't have a guest schedule at all. The second Sunday of every month, we want to open it up so that if we have anybody on other weekends that wants to call in and say, hey, we want to argue about, say, abortion. And it's like, yeah, but we're talking about this guy's book who wrote about, like near-death experiences. And like, maybe you could call in the second Sunday of the month, and then we can have a conversation about it. So we give ourselves that Sunday, that one day a month, that day of Sabbath, to really be able to reflect and catch up.
And Louis, like I said, we've been on Jake's show a couple of times, and you know, the way that he runs it, you know, the second show that you record is typically, you know, whatever news stories that we want to discuss at any one time. That's for you, for the times that you've had the chance of being on and doing that. I can't imagine that that's easy to try to select for you. And that's a very non-professional thing.
I'll be honest and say I'm not sure that I understand what you're trying to get at here, but it is difficult to pick a story. Now, not that everyone does. Jake's show is fairly free form, but it's intended that the guests bring an article. I think he prefers when we bring scientific articles, and it becomes, since the election, it has become incredibly difficult. And now I was first on his show sometime after the election. But I have never found it easy, because there is always something of note happening. And I mean more than once or twice a week. This week alone, right? We have, you know, casual threats of, we'll see what kind of storm we're bringing in regard to North Korea and international affairs. We have paper towel basketball in Puerto Rico. We have, you know, our vote at the UN about whether or not we feel it's acceptable to use capital punishment on, you know, minors and people who are homosexual. We have the shooting in Las Vegas. And then we have our own little personal sort of atheist movement or skeptic movement drama out of Milwaukee. And I'll be honest, that one is easy to engage with because I'm aware of many of the personalities and I'm friends with a handful of them. So it feels closer to home in the sense that it's more personal. Although I did, in fact, I thought that I had managed to get in contact with everybody who might have been in the Las Vegas area, and I had just realized today that I had missed somebody. And while they're okay, I don't think that's an experience, because they had gone specifically to that concert. I don't think that's an experience that they're going to get anytime soon.
Oh, that's awful.
They made it home safe, so that's good. But they're gonna be dealing with this for a while, and so I felt really terrible that, you know, because Facebook has added a new feature because of how common these sorts of disasters are. I don't know if anyone noticed it.
Yes.
Where it'll let people check in, mark themselves as safe.
Yes.
When these kinds of things happen. So I saw that everybody had marked safe. I didn't realize that that person had been present. So, bad friend.
No, it's just, it's really difficult to see. Now, I get the funny feeling that this is kind of part of how I'm kind of describing this. You get so wrapped into so many different pieces that it's hard to remember all the threads that you need to check on as you go along with it. Joey, really quickly, because you of all people, you're the one I know full well military on this one. As someone who has that career knowledge and backing behind you, the shooting in Vegas, all of a sudden everybody's going nuts and yelling and screaming, and I gotta imagine that you've heard it going on, and I gotta imagine that you had to have looked at it and gone, yep, it's another one.
Well, I'm trying to think of some way to kind of work my military experience into it, but I really can't. Now, I would argue to say that. Yeah, go ahead.
See, I was basically meaning that you know how you can be in a crowd of people at like a carnival, and you hear your name, and all of a sudden ears go up, you hear it. I'm kind of figuring that there's a shooting. You of all of us would be far and away much more. Oh yeah, I heard about that. That's.
Yeah. Again, not much news coverage in my area that I've been following, so what I know about it is limited. But part of me wants to go ahead and respond first to all the outcries about, gun control and all that. And yeah, these tragedies are happening more and more often. But taking away the gun really isn't going to do anything. If this person is truly motivated to do this, he'll find another way. I mean, worst mass murder in China was with a freaking kitchen knife.
Yeah, didn't that just happen too?
A few years ago.
Oh, because
how many dead?
In China?
Yeah.
Oh, hell. It was a school attack, so...
I just saw something on my
How
news
many
feed
dead?
from China.
I think that was Britain. That was, or Britain or France was the knife recently. The China one was a few years ago, but there was one recently.
No, maybe somebody reposted the China story because it was absolutely China that I saw.
Yeah, China,
So
there were 29. There were 29 dead and 130 wounded.
Yeah, but how many attackers were there? Because it wasn't just one. And they weren't able to do it from 400 yards and 32 stories up either.
Yeah.
So you have, some effort to harden targets like stadiums and concerts. And that's fine. That would work against knives and cars, and we put up the concrete barriers everywhere. It's not very effective against rifles. So while I respect that some people don't want to have a conversation about guns or don't think it would be effective.
No, I'm happy. I'm happy to, but my main point is that you take away the gun, it's not going to stop crime and violence.
I don't know.
There's something deeper in
Australia?
that.
Yeah, I'm going to say there's a lot
of
of complicated, if you don't mind, Michael. Sorry. If you don't mind, Shujin.
Go ahead.
Go finish your thought.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of complicated data out there, and it's not well researched. We can do the viewing it as a public health thing that we've been trying to do, but that we haven't been able to be successful at as a culture, and that will help. But, because there's a lack of data, I find it very hard to take a strong position to say it couldn't help, because we don't have any good reason to think it wouldn't. I mean, maybe we don't have any good reason to think it would, but I find it hard to accept hard claims on this matter.
Okay, I'm gonna kind of haul us together at this point, and Joseph, yeah, I'm gonna pull you in specifically in just a second. But this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about. There are different things that have been happening in the news that will, and I'm allowed to get away with saying it at this point. No, actually, I'm not going to use that one because Joe got me on this one Friday night. Spirals out of control because there are so many different pieces that branch off from the original topic, and this is where everything just avalanches altogether. Now, Joseph, I think probably one of the biggest things that I can remember recently is that over in France, you guys had Charlie Hebdo. You had another, what was it, a bombing or the
Bataclan massacre.
Oh, a few things. You had, the Bataclan. Yeah, it was something.
Yeah, so these things, big news stories. And, you know, in a lot of ways, they come out of left field. Nobody even realizes they're about to have happen. You know, arguably, some could say, well, you know, Charlie Hebdo, they should have known this was going to happen. You know, I don't care. Nobody expects, and shut up, somebody's just going to all of a sudden come in and destroy a dozen lives in one go for hurt feelings. But what I'm wondering is, you know, from over your side, you know, some of these things have been happening, and I know that you don't have quite as much that you deal with the news cycles and such, but I gotta wonder, you know, these things are happening a little bit frequently. This has got to get straining for you guys over there in Europe, and I have to imagine, you know, you've got something that you've looked at and gone, well, shit.
Yeah, I don't know what you want me to make a comparison with what's going on in the United States?
Well, not directly so much as the, how the influx of the news of what's been happening for France, how the especially the much more violent news that's been going on, as opposed to who only knows what the hell else, how that might be affecting, I don't know, any latent stresses that you might have, other than, of course, all the other stuff you've been dealing with, I know.
Well, the French tend to deal with things like that. I mean, like they have something here called Vigipirate, which is, sounds like pirates, but but it's heightened police security that they enacted immediately after every attentat, after every attack. And the security's been just getting higher and higher with every attack. But that aside, as for the news cycle, people just tend to go about their everyday lives.
Shujin, if I may. I've looked over this, tried to get a better grasp on what's going on. Now, from what I have gleaned thus far, they still do not have a definitive motive for why this was carried out yet.
Okay.
I've looked at it, and, you know, to quote one of the guys, one of the investigators, I'm guessing, Las Vegas sheriff, Stephen Paddock, the suspect, is a man who spent decades acquiring weapons and ammo and living a secret life, much of which will never be fully understood. The best thing they've tossed out thus far is that he was a very antisocial individual.
Oh, shit, for all we know, I mean, that could qualify me. I don't get out the house twice a week.
Now, with that said,
I
don't want to single out anybody and try to put all the blame on one person in particular. But, for example, he did this from the, I believe, 30-second story of a hotel that was near the target area. How the hell do hotel staff not notice firearms being brought in?
Yeah,
well, and that's actually part of the reason that I think that we should have a talk about gun regulation that's reasonable. So, like, if he hand carried each rifle one at a time up to his hotel room, do you know what the hotel staff could have done? Nothing. That's a Second Amendment right. If he had walked by a police, as long as he didn't say, "Hey, I'm going to go shoot some people," he could have, like, waved those things. In Nevada, I think they have open carry.
I really don't know, but at the same time, I have been to hotels who have the signs up that say no firearms on this premises.
I don't know if we have that there in Las Vegas. I don't remember it from when
I don't know. I've never been.
There's a lot of gun conventions too.
Another
Las Vegas. So like it could have been any dealer going to a gun fair.
The Mandalay Bay specifically had a no firearms policy, was my understanding. But, however, I've been in now. What I saw, this was at a gas station in West Virginia, but we had stopped and there was a big sign on the door to go because it had your typical gas station convenience store. And there's a big sign on the door, no guns. Walk in, there's a big, tall, burly trucker with a handgun right on his hip, walking around. Like, doesn't apply to me.
Well, who's going to enforce that?
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking. I'm looking at him going, he's blatantly, not giving a shit about the sign on the door, but here's a big burly trucker with a handgun, like you're going to tell him to get out.
Well, and as far as this guy getting the guns up to his hotel room, I guess I don't, maybe it's because I'm ignorant or naive about firearms, but couldn't he have just put them in his suitcases and nobody would have known?
I'm sorry, maybe one or two, but 23, including long arms.
Like I said, I'm ignorant about firearms to some extent, or to actually all extent. I would have assumed that you could put them in some form of some kind of bag or covering where people they might go, that's weird that you're carrying that oddly shaped bag, but maybe their first instinct wouldn't go, you must have 23 firearms in there.
Right. And then you've got modular firearms like the AR-15, which when you break down and you separate the receivers, I mean, that's going to fit into a standard size suitcase. You're not going to have any problem. You get a handful of them in there,
It sounds like he knows about. It sounds like he was very, very knowledgeable about firearms to begin with as well.
But I will also say, one that really should have been, if that had been the case, where he's carrying these things in, say, in a duffel bag, and it's clear that the duffel bag doesn't have much more than, something that's long and slender in it, that should have been a major tip-off to the security at the hotel. But regardless, I'm not trying to make any excuses for anyone. Things that
a point I tried to make earlier. Can I?
Yeah.
I heard this on somebody made a comment about this. This is not for me. It's about gun conventions. There's a lot in Nevada, Las Vegas. So it could have been somebody in town staying at a hotel just for a gun fair who was going to be showing his wares.
Well, from what I've been reading, he was such a high stakes gambler that I don't know about Mandalay Bay, but he was very well known at a number of casinos, and he was a high enough stakes gambler that he was given free penthouse suites and all kinds of swag because he spent hundreds of thousands of dollars at these casinos. There's a quote that I read from was a former brother-in-law. He was married to the girlfriend's sister, and he said that they would go on vacation, the four of them, and because he was a high-stakes gambler, the shooter would get these incredible posh suites for them to stay in and things like that. So I don't know if he was that known at the Mandalay Bay, but if he was the kind of guest where it would be like, oh, hi, Mr. So-and-so, is there anything we could get you the second kind of thing?
Now, speaking earlier than the actual event, they have also stated that at least a dozen of these weapons were equipped with bump stocks.
Yes. I read that too.
For those who are confused, a bump stock is effectively a spring-loaded stock that allows the receiver to pull back upon firing, and then the spring pushes it back forward. And by doing so, you can effectively turn any semi-automatic rifle into a rapid-fire assault rifle, pretty much.
Yeah.
So
There's a lot of states where that is highly illegal. And I don't know if Nevada is one of them. But the point is, this would have been a pretty easy clue for anybody who might have checked in on this guy before. And I know normally you wouldn't expect somebody to get checked like that, just, you know, everyday average citizen. But I'm seeing a lot of parallels, and this is probably going to sound kind of scary. I'm seeing a lot of parallels between this guy and myself. He was described by all of his neighbors and such as being antisocial. He owned a large number of firearms. And, well, for example, I have been described many times as antisocial. I have been diagnosed with PTSD. And at my largest collection, I had somewhere around 47 firearms. I actually got sat down with an FBI investigator asking me why I felt the need to have so many firearms. Now, in my case, my firearms were mostly collector's items. For example, a revolver from 1887, a M1 carbine that had served in both the European and Pacific theaters during World War II. So, and yeah, again, most of these were much older, what most would consider obsolete firearms. But nonetheless, they sat me down and, you know, tried to figure out, okay, what's going on here? You know, I went ahead and explained to them that, look at the firearms in question. These are this is just, you know, collecting. And to be fair, after trying to get that through them for a while, they let me be.
Well, there's a big difference between you and this guy, is that you're here talking with us now. I don't think the other guy was...
There is that, yeah. Louis, let me go ahead and have you go ahead and make your point, because then I'm going to swing us over into a piece that I want to kind of broaden this out a bit for. So go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, and I mean, this highlights the fact that there's a lot of news to deal with. We could spend all day on this issue and we wouldn't be any closer to solving it. But I did want to point out about that knife attack in China, that included 10 attackers in a crowded subway, I believe, each armed with knives. So what that averages them out to about 3 kills apiece, not to treat human life as just a number. But if you were to put 10 people with rifles up in that room, and I think our casualties would have been much higher than they were. So yeah, I don't think it's fair to use that as a point of comparison. And I don't think you personally, Joseph, were doing that in that way, but I have heard people use it. And I feel it's a little dishonest from some people, not necessarily from you.
Well, okay. Like I was trying to say before, I'm not saying that's the only problem. I am very open to discussing it in any way whatsoever. But yeah.
Who was targeted in China?
Everyone.
Everyone? Yeah. Just a reminder. Just a reminder that the Bataclan, the shooting here, was 130 dead and 413 wounded.
And honestly, I'm starting to wonder what this guy's motive was. Could he just have been another Bartlett case?
A case of
Johnny Bartlett is a fictional character who was a mass murderer, and his only motivation was get as high a number as he could so that he could be famous.
I don't know. I don't even want to speculate about it. I think we're going to have to really, especially considering all the fake, and I hate using the words fake news, but especially considering all the conspiracy theories already floating around. If we're being reasonable and fair, I think our only option at this point is to reserve our speculations for more evidence.
There's so many reasons to be pissed off with today's world. And I mean, it's not clear whether this guy reasons or not. So this just could be anything at all.
So let me now that we've gone ahead and done this, let me kind of paint the picture to really show exactly what I'm talking about with this whole damn thing now. We have who only knows how many people who have been shot and wounded. That's going to now deal with states' guns rights, legislation of, regulation of, what weapons should or should not be available to the public, the policing, if you will, of private property, of who should be allowed to do what, especially if they are, as was said, high-stakes people. The possibility of regulating other weapons because they fall under the same auspice as a firearm, whether there should be better, and I really do believe that this is an important one, if there should be better public health, especially better mental public health available for people, and how much more resources should go into government agencies who regulate and support and are supposed to check over people who have got lots of weapons, or even one weapon if they want them, if they should be background checked. Let's see, how many other pieces have I missed at this point? Because, wow, that's just me going off of, just off the top of my head at this point. How many more spider legs do we go down at that point? And that's the problem. Anybody? What other topics have I missed?
Surveillance
specifically with guns, or
no, this whole fiasco at this point. Yeah, Maddy, you just said what? Surveillance? You said?
Yeah, I mean, because you could argue that if there were more surveillance everywhere, then maybe we would have seen this. If there were, or if there were more online surveillance, maybe this guy had some chatter, and we could tracked what he was buying. I mean, you can get very, very nanny state about it. You probably still wouldn't catch everything.
Right.
Like
that's one reason that I think.
In my mind, it was how does somebody buy that many guns? Because he had more guns in one of his residences, and somebody not do what they did with Joey and say, dude, what the hell do you need all these guns for? Like, you need to start explaining yourself a bit, because he
cash under the table at a gun show. I mean, not even under the table, just cash completely legal at a gun show. I mean,
right.
This is America.
In terms of personal liberty, I'm going to be honest. I think that the removal of guns to some degree, or registration, licensing, is probably our best bet, because that avoids the surveillance state sort of situation. And anybody who thinks that small arms are going to deal with a drone with a Hellfire missile is dead wrong. Like, they're discussing it in terms of protection from our own government is like discussing the regulation of pocket knives in terms of protection from our government. They don't even rate, not even a little.
Yeah.
So that's not an issue.
So how do we pick and choose our fights with the news cycles that have got all these different pieces shoving down the pipe all simultaneously? I mean, because now I'm thinking on top of all that, there is the argument about what the Second Amendment was supposed to be. And this is still 250 years later, we're still trying to figure out exactly what the damn thing is supposed to mean.
Well, yeah. I mean, 50 or so years after we created a question, because it was unquestioned for almost the first 200 years of its existence to not protect an individual right to bear arms, which is how you end up with the cases that we have. The first case to mention the Second Amendment that reached the Supreme Court that had any bearing on it whatsoever was in the late 1930s, and they held that it didn't protect an individual right to bear arms, and that the state, I forget which state it was, had the right to bar access to specific kinds of firearms. And then it wasn't touched again until the 80s. And so, I mean, jurisprudence got overturned when Scalia got in. And this is you can learn all this stuff. It's really neat. And the show I'm about to reference, I think, Shujin, which is Opening Arguments. They did a 2-part.
Oh yeah, they did a great show on that.
It was fantastic. And these are things I didn't know. I mean, I came up from a conservative household as a kid, and I thought guns, this is, but turns out it's real easy to just tell a lie about it for 2 generations.
Yep. Just so that I don't come off as, you know, the crazy gun nut hard ass. As a gun owner, as a veteran, as somebody who, well, when I could afford it, used to go out shooting at the range, I am perfectly willing to meet that little ground. I support the idea of, you know, no more gun show sales without, you know, proper background checks and such. I support the idea of, you know, somebody buys too many damn guns, you sit them down, you ask them about it. Was it an inconvenience for me? Yes. Was it that big an inconvenience for me? No.
And
I support the idea of having people checked out. You know, look at their criminal record, look at their mental health record. If they've got something on there that is a bit of a red flag, look into it. They did the same for me. They saw that I was diagnosed with PTSD, and they went ahead and, you know, looked into it, saw what was related. They just, you know, they were covering all their bases, and I appreciate the fact that they did that. Yeah, it ate up a little bit of my time, but hey, it didn't harm me in any way.
Well, on the opposite end of that coin, Joseph, before anybody paints me as the person who's coming for all y'all's guns.
Oh no,
you know,
not even trying to do that either.
Right? No, I don't think you would, but I don't know who's in the audience, and so with respect to anybody who is worried that people like myself who think that maybe guns don't necessarily have a place in our society, it doesn't mean that we're going to come for them. Frankly, I understand that there is a need for certain kinds of firearms for some people, and other people are just hobbyists. And certainly there's a value in protecting, you know, historical or antiquated firearms as well. You know, those things aren't a huge danger to culture or society, so I don't know. None of those things would happen anyhow. If we wanted to take all the guns away, we would absolutely need a constitutional amendment, and that's not going to happen. We're not anywhere close to that. We're not even close to being able to say, hey, maybe, you know, semi-automatic modular weapon systems shouldn't be. And personally, I think I would be okay with that. You can do your sport shooting without a rail-based platform that you can put, you know, an under-over grenade launcher on. So,
I think if I can.
No,
Sorry.
go ahead.
There's a bit more of a delay here. If you had, I think, background checks and designated areas for certain types of firearms would do a lot to make things a lot better.
Yeah, you know, or it's like another thing, especially because to bring up some other news, what with the kneeling at the football games and the bloviating about how much we love our troops, I was enlisted, and when you lived on post, your guns lived in the armory. You didn't get to carry them around on post, and I think that a lot of people forget that for those who've actually experienced the military lifestyle, we have experienced worst nightmare of most average citizens. We lost a lot of our freedoms in exchange for, whether people patriotism or funding for college. We give up a lot of our own personal and individual rights to be a part of a larger force. And you know what? We're all just fine. Well, I mean, combat experience aside and PTSD aside, the actual experience of living in that environment, we're all just fine from that. My thoughts. And you know what? I didn't see combat. So anybody who wants to tell me I'm a complete idiot, you can, because I didn't see combat.
You don't have to see combat to be traumatized in some way.
Yeah, and that's true. So, we deal with so many different pieces of all this. And, part of my point before is that, you deal with a news event, and it doesn't matter what it is at this point anymore. And there are so many rabbit holes to go squirreling around, and that's part of what makes this so damn difficult to deal with. So now that we've shown starkly, how easy it is now to pull on so many of these damn threads and where they can take you, and people have opinions. People don't have opinions. People don't care. Some are completely in the dark about the whole damn thing. Here's where we kind of have to deal with the other piece of it all. How do we try to decompress from the whole damn thing so we don't implode on ourselves in trying to not lose it? I mean, there's some people who have a really, really tough time of dealing with all this stuff and not feeling hopeless for society. And Heretic Woman, you and Maddy have been aside on this one, so I want to give you guys an opportunity to kind of go a little bit more front and center this round out.
Oh, feel free. I don't have to worry about decompressing because I've got so much other stuff going on that I don't get sucked into. I don't get sucked into this. I've had a huge, fantastic family that I spend more time with than I do on Twitter. And stuff like this doesn't bother me. I mean, don't get it. I take that sounds wrong. It bothers. It just doesn't. It doesn't eat me up because I don't. It doesn't affect me personally, and I've got so many other things to focus on that do affect me personally. At the same time, I know that this could happen to me when I go out to work tomorrow. This could happen to me at the movie theater. I realize that could happen, but tornadoes can happen too, and there's nothing I can do about it. And that's not to minimize anybody who is suffering from the fear or anxiety from it now, but it's not something I have to worry. So I don't have to decompress from this kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't really either. I have, and maybe you find this too, Maddy, but I have a show where I can bitch about stuff if I really, really want to. There are some things that I just don't get involved with. Like, I hate drama. So although I went to the conference, I did my best to avoid getting involved with any of that drama because I really didn't want to. And as far as, I see a lot of stuff on my news feed, the gun stuff, and I've got people from both sides on my news feed. I'll have one person saying, if you think this way, you're an idiot, and another person comes along and says, if you think that way, you're a moron. And I'm like, I just don't want to have an opinion because, well, first of all, my opinion on the matter is really irrelevant because I can't vote to change anything down there anyway. So, and we don't have that many guns. So, I feel bad that it's something you folks have to deal with on a regular basis because it's got to get to be a really old argument no matter what side you fall on. And so I have no dog in that fight, as no matter what my opinion is on it, I'm not going to be able to do anything about that. And I'm also, I agree with you that, like, I always think of, I like to do, I go on motorcycle trips with my husband, and I've not bungee jumped, but I've done the giant swing thing that looks like a bungee jump and stuff like that. And people are like, oh, how can you do that? It's so scary. I'm like, oh, I could get hit by a bus trying to, my massage therapy place is across the street from me, and I have to cross the street every week. And it's a 4-lane street, even though it's, in the city, it's close to down. It's a busy street. I could get hit by a bus trying to go to my massage appointment. So I'm not going to be like freak out about going on motorcycles or that I'm going to get shot going to something. And I'm with you. I'm aware that is always a possibility.
Remember,
Absolutely.
Kids, look both ways.
That's right. And in fact, we just had, and it got completely lost in everything because the Las Vegas shooting happened the next day. But we actually had a terrorist attack in Canada the day before. It was a fellow who turned out to be a Somali refugee, ran over some people in Edmonton. Fortunately, no fatalities at all, but there were,
How very Canadian of him.
I know. I know. He apparently managed to integrate to some degree, I guess.
In Canada, terrorists throw pancakes.
Yeah. I think there was 8 or 10 people injured, but no one was killed. But and like to your original point, Shujin, that got completely lost in all of the other horrible things going on, mainly because of the Las Vegas shooting. So nobody really is reporting on that at all right now. And I don't watch much of any news, but I do have there's the CBC News and CTV News that I read on my phone usually every day while I'm waiting for my breakfast to cook or something. I'll sit and read the top stories on those apps. But and I haven't seen anything about this terrorist attack since it happened. It's been all, like, even our national news has been talking about you guys. It's kind of annoying, actually.
Like, what about me?
It's our top story, and it's like Trump shit every day. I'm like, really? Is there nothing going on here?
Are we going to allude to that South Park episode again, like Canada on strike?
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
I don't know. Yeah, 1 second. I'm sorry. Behind the scenes, somebody just went ahead and said Canadian terrorists use Mrs. Butterworth. There's a really, really good joke about all that. And as somebody who's tried good Canadian syrup, that's horrible. Joey, go ahead.
I was going to say, Heretic Woman brought up a rather key item that I consider a lot. Some of you may have heard me mention this before. There's something that's called a micromort.
Yes. Okay.
And it is effectively your chances of dying doing any particular task. For example, two guys go skydiving. One of them has a malfunction in his parachute, falls to his death. Well, skydiving now has a 1 in 2 micromort. And there's more ways that it gets broken down, but you kind of see the point here. There is nothing you do in your life that does not come with the chance of something bad happening. You could be masturbating in your room, perfectly safe and sound from everything outside, and have yourself a heart attack.
Yep.
Then there was a power surge.
Yeah,
point being,
just leave the vacuum alone.
Point being, we do live in a dangerous world. And granted, some of those dangers are caused by us.
Yep.
And there are people in this world that are absolutely paralyzed by that. Shooting happens in Las Vegas. Guy in New York's like, well, I just can't go out today. It's too dangerous.
I don't think the comparison with, like, shit can happen every day. I don't think that's comparable with something like Las Vegas.
I know, but understand what I'm getting at.
Why?
Well, it actually, for me, that's an exact comparison, because that's how I view it in the world. And I think that I don't think that I'm alone in that, because for me, things like the Las Vegas shooting, while they're terrible and they are tragic, there is an impersonal barrier there. Like, it doesn't affect my day-to-day life. I don't know anybody whose life was destroyed by this. So I understand the humanity in it, but to me, it's a statistic that is the same as how many, garbage collectors were killed. Like,
what I'm trying to...
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, it's fine. It's just that what I'm trying to get at is, yes, this is a terrible thing. And yes, it has terribly affected the lives of as many as 500 people, just indirectly, probably thousands of people indirectly. Family member was killed or is hospitalized. But the point is that with all these terrible things that do happen, whether we have any control over it or not, we cannot allow ourselves to be paralyzed by it. Be it, a one-person attack or a terrorist attack. I'm not going to use the good old Bushism, oh, you're going to let the terrorists win. But, the point being is that when it starts affecting our lives in ways that beyond just, the immediate effects of the act itself, we need to be careful to be cautious, but we can't let it rule our lives either.
Louis, you wanted to say something?
Actually, I think that Joseph brought that to a point where I don't have a whole lot to say about it. I would agree that we can't, coat the entire world in pool noodles and Nerf, and that there will always be some risks. I don't want to dissuade anyone either who finds comparing the day-to-day risks they could face with things like that. If that helps you get out of the house and to get to work and do your life, I don't want to take that away from you. I don't think it's good risk management if you're not one of those people. If you're doing okay, and you have the mental or emotional ability right now to work for better, then do that. Don't ever use that as not you personally, but I would encourage our listeners or viewers to please not ever let the fact that you might slip and fall in the shower prevent you from letting your, not handing a 3-year-old a knife. Like, yeah. Yes, you could die anytime, anyway. That's all true. But, let's prevent the preventable ones when we can. Yeah. If you don't prevent a preventable death that you could easily prevent, you do own a little bit of that responsibility.
I suppose if I could clarify for just a moment, my point being that the only way we're going to make this world a better place is by getting out there and doing something about it.
Joseph, yeah, I totally got you.
I
apologize if I came off not getting that.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
I just know that I didn't clarify well enough when I was pointing it out. You gotta do your part if we're going to see any change in the world that we live in. And if you hide yourself in a bubble, that's not helping anybody.
Yeah. On the other side of that token, dear viewer / listener, if you're not capable of taking care of yourself, you're really not in any shape to take care of anyone else. So do take care of yourself if that's what you have to do. But always view it as recuperating to return to the fight if it's a fight you care about.
Yeah, there's another piece that was mentioned over in the live chat when we were talking about stuff that's preventable or stuff that you should be watching out for. And I don't know who this is more about, the person who wrote it or the person who understands it, which I'm the one who understands it. Trippin had mentioned things that we have to be conscious and worried about, or vibrators being hacked.
Yes, now, I saw that.
I have to go on record as actually saying I understand what's meant by that.
Yep.
I don't know the context of this particular example, but I'll tell you that when I was briefly involved with an industry that sold vibrators, I was never fond of the idea of any of them using radio frequency signals for control. So,
well, see, there's a couple ways of dealing with this. A simple on-off and power control is not a terribly difficult thing to manage. As somebody who has some passing familiarity with radio, as I do. However, oh God, I can't believe I'm going to go ahead and you know what? Screw it. In for penny, in for pound, right? Sure. Let's go ahead and do this one. You use a remote control vibrator that operates via Bluetooth that can be operated from anywhere because it's working through a smart device into it. If it's hooked up to the internet and somebody else can take control of it, they can theoretically control it by hacking into it through whatever methodology, and conceivably, if not in actuality, hack your phone, which would give accurate information on anything and everything that they could access from the phone itself, like personal data and passwords and account information, and perhaps if you do banking that way, any stored information.
Yeah, that's a
including
general
save-
IoT problem, right?
Yeah.
That sounds like a real dick.
Although I'm going to say, I would, if I have an insertable inside of me and it's Bluetooth and most likely contains a lithium battery, I'd be more concerned that they could alter the charging circuits and cause that battery to explode.
Yeah, Maddie, before I get to you, really quickly, please, folks, remember that's a hypothetical. We're not in any way whatsoever discussing Louis' weekend activities whatsoever. Want to make
I'm going to blame the burritos for the explosion, frankly.
You do that. Yeah, Maddie, you were going to say...
Oh, no, that was a terrible pun. I'm going to just be happy that it went right under the radar.
Terrible puns are good.
I'm just saying that's a total dick move to hijack somebody's vibrator.
Oh, yeah.
And you see, this is why I keep things as analog as possible.
I thought you were about to say highbrow, and I was about to go ahead and beat you down on that one. Great.
Yeah. No, he's just prepared for the Cylons.
Typical wind-up watch. I used to have a Nokia.
I still do.
I still have it, but the problem is the wiring. It's so old now that the wiring has fallen apart.
I'm sorry. I know folks are looking over at me and they're kind of wondering what the hell is wrong with me. You have no idea the sordid stories that Nokia has had over the. What the hell was it? Like a decade?
Well, I got the Nokia in 2004, and it traveled with me all around the world, and I finally put it up. It's not thrown out, and it's not completely broken, but the speakers don't work anymore. So I finally put it up in 2014. So yeah, a decade.
He's got it mounted on a panel somewhere up on the wall, stuffed
No,
like
it's up on the shelf right above my head.
Those phones are practically bulletproof, I'm telling you.
Well, it's certainly helicopter proof.
You know,
Don't ask me how I know that. I will say it does not have any of its original paint left.
It doesn't need to. All you need is a t-shirt shooter now, and you can damage a wall through China. Nothing, really? Nothing at all? No?
Not all the walls in China are all that thick. You didn't specify.
I need this. Thanks. Thank you so much. No. There's a difference between having fun at somebody and being mean-spirited, and I need to be careful because I had a really bad Friday night that's still kind of hanging over me. I'll explain later. Joey might remember.
I still don't know what it's about, but I'll tell you this much. Much damage as I can do with that Nokia, you give me one Home Depot.
While we're
giving away Home Depots, I will also take a Home Depot.
There's stories. There's lots of stories behind everything. Anyway, oh God, I can see how this is going to be playing out.
Play the A-Team montage.
No, there's only so many DMCA's I can accept in one night. Anyway,
well, I gotta find you.
I don't even think I could hum a few bars.
I got Windows back here.
Yeah,
but I'm not sure that they could DMCA you if I hum it.
Yeah, actually, I've heard of that happening.
Yeah, let's. You know what? You go ahead and you start your own show, and we'll test it on that one.
All right.
Sounds good.
Fine.
That's good. Fine. So how about we take this? and I'll give you guys all a chance to say your final piece before we go ahead and close off. Because I'm thinking about closing off just a little bit early, just because of the way that I feel that this is going at this point. Because I think in a way I've kind of learned something myself from the way that you guys have talked this through, and I'd like to kind of get your last opinions on it, of trying maybe to figure what is the relative impact to us individually with these stories that we have coming at us and the information coming at us, and using that to try to better sift through what should we worry over, what don't we need to worry over, and what level of worry we should have for whatever individual piece. I don't know who wants to kick off at this point, but you know, I'm just, like I said, I'm going to give each one of you an opportunity to kind of, whatever last ideas you want to have to go off of that at this point.
To go with what others have said so far too, is something I believe very strongly, especially where terrorist attacks are concerned. I refuse to worry about them, because I do honestly believe that if you drastically alter your way of living based on terrorist attacks, then they have won. They don't care how you change. They just want you to have to change. So I refuse to do that. And yeah, Edmonton, people getting run over. I live in a city of 250,000 people. Right now, the annual Oktoberfest is going on. This is the first weekend. And yeah, that's exactly the kind of thing that has been targeted lately, is some kind of entertainment thing. And I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just not. Well, I don't go to Oktoberfest anyway because I hate beer, but that's a whole other story.
That's funny.
I know. Believe me, I was just in Milwaukee for a whole weekend going, no, thank you. No, thank you. No, it's okay. Thank you. Because there's beer everywhere, but that's a whole other story. But yeah, I'm not gonna alter how I live because of that, or worry, because driving is still probably the most dangerous thing anybody does these days. And I do that all the time. So that's, if anything is going to be an issue, that's probably what it's going to be at some point. But I agree, you have to be cautious in a reasonable manner. You don't ignore it completely, but you don't make drastic changes based on fear mongering either. So, and as far as the news stuff goes, my biggest beef right now is this whole influx of fake stories about anything. And that drives me bonkers, because now you can't just take any news story that you see and have a reasonable expectation that it's going to be accurate, even if it looks like it's from a regular news
Who's
source.
Publishing these stories?
A lot of it's coming from Russia, from what I understand.
Well, how is it making the mainstream news?
Well, it's not necessarily making the mainstream news, but they're faking sites to look like they come from mainstream news. Like, it's getting that bad.
Okay.
And there's been a couple of times where I thought a story came from like an actual news outlet, only to find that the URL was slightly altered. So it's actually somebody pretending to be that source, and it's not.
Well, they should be documenting all this.
I guess it didn't occur to me at the time, but and just people who are posting stupid things, with either deliberately or just because they don't care. And so you see a news story from a site you don't know. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be false. And that's kind of annoying because you basically have to vet every source now before you share anything.
For me, in my case, I just have to say I'm too damn poor to worry about it. I can't afford to go to Vegas. I can't afford to leave the country. I barely can afford to drive around the block. And with the way my neighborhood is, it's not at risk of anything. And I know most of the people here, so I just can't afford to worry at this point. And as far as news goes, something that always has annoyed me about news is it's all negative these days. You take 5 minutes from every newscast, put, the little old lady bake sale on there or something, or hell, if you can't find any positive news whatsoever, just put 5 minutes of cat videos up.
Yeah, I'd be out for that.
That's my take on it.
Cool.
Joseph?
Oh.
Yeah, you.
Well, we started on so many topics.
Well, that's kind of the point of the whole damn thing this time.
Yeah, but to conclude anything, I think it would require another 100 shows. But yeah, basically it comes down to we have to make a value judgment about our environment. And best decide, we use that to decide how we're going to survive in it. And what Deborah is talking about, all this fake news and all this is basically it's people, you've got people who don't think for themselves, who rely on authority figures to decide for them what's safe or not. And then you've got people who think for themselves, who decide for themselves what's safe in their environment or not, and what to do about it. And what Deborah is talking about is people who are making it as hard as possible for anyone who does think for themselves to, make that sort of value judgment about the world they live in and what to do to change it. So, we're living in very confusing times. And yeah, there's about 10 rabbit holes to follow there.
Yep.
Ain't that the truth? Louis, how would you like to go ahead and close up for us?
Well, I'd like to offer a couple of pieces of advice to anyone who's having difficulty dealing with the news. First, as has already been mentioned, cars are unsafe sometimes. Wear a seatbelt. Don't be one of those conspiracy theory people who thinks that seatbelts are just there to strangle you or something. Second,
it's a communist plot.
Right? No, I've heard this. I've heard this from people I kind of respected.
Ronald Reagan made a record. I don't know if you've heard of this, but he came out with a series of records, messages like this. That seatbelts is a communist. Yeah. It's online.
I did not hear that. Actually.
Right,
So
anyway.
my second bit of advice is find humor where you can. There will always be exploding mechanical dicks and things of that nature to find some amusement at, as long as it's not happening to you. Put with your friends. It's a really important time for us to stick together and be able to do the work that needs doing. Whatever you believe in, you pursue that. When it comes to news, and this is not part of the 2 pieces of advice. At this point, I'm at 3 or 4. No one expects the Spanish Inquisition. Sorry.
I was waiting for that one.
Right. Surprise, that's our main. Oh, anyway. So 4 things. Just when it comes to news, appreciate expertise and know how to sort it out. There's a lot of nonsense floating around out there. And if you haven't figured out how to sort an expert from Alex Jones, you're going to have some trouble.
Oh,
because while they haven't become mainstream, absolutely the fringe media, the fringe powerful media is out there with some nonsense as well.
Right.
That's really it. Have as much as you can some joy in life, because it could get harder, and the downs make the highs higher, I hope.
And Maddy, now that you're done dabbing over there.
No, I was coughing, and as a healthcare worker, I've learned to cough into the crook of your elbow.
You were dabbing, and you know it. Anybody watching the video, go ahead and comment. And just go ahead and say it. It'd be nice to get some comments for Trevor. Anyway, go ahead. What would you like to close out with?
I think this is actually one of those instances where being a part of a hated minority helps. As a trans woman, who I have most of my anxieties are centered around: will I get beat up in the bathroom or burned alive behind a dumpster? So other esoteric things that maybe are not more or less realistic, but that are bigger, that would happen to just a general population, they don't bother me as much, because I'm so focused on these other things in my life, whether or not they're realistic or could happen. And as I'm thinking, like, I live 10 miles away from Minneapolis, Minnesota, and we have a Super Bowl coming up. I'm guessing that might be a potential terrorist target, and whether it is or not, I'm sure they'll treat it as such.
Yeah.
I'm so wrapped up in my own little world that I don't have time to worry about the world and the rest of the world. Maybe that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know, but I totally agree with what Heretic Woman was saying about, you can't live your life differently because you're afraid, because of what the terrorists said. At the same time, if the terrorists are demanding you do something, and you would just happen to agree with them, like say the terrorists are saying, get the hell out of our part of the Middle East, you could do that. But that's a political opinion that I don't want to go down right now. But you do what you can, live your life the way you want to live it, and make changes where you can.
And for what it's worth, by the way, I just put over into our chat from the live chat. Aubrey's saying, as a trans person, I can confirm what Maddy is saying. Worry around that sort of eclipses everything else.
I love you, Aubrey.
So much love to those who face those sorts of struggles.
Absolutely.
And that's for those of us who have the privilege to not have to worry so much about those things. That's why we got to get ourselves back together and get back in this fight. Because there are definitely people who can legitimately avoid this fight wherever possible. Maddy, I definitely appreciate you being on the show. The internet could be a rough place for anybody.
Does this mean I win Oppression Olympics?
No, because absolutely you could be more oppressed.
I'm still white.
I hear
really nice job.
that Richard Dawkins wrote a letter about it.
So let me go ahead and wrap this all up. If you have been like me and kind of been really overwhelmed with stuff, I'm going to tell you the same thing that we have said on many a different occasion for many different reasons. What you feel is not wrong. What you do with it is really the hardest part of it all. Feelings are weird. Feelings do stupid things to us. They twist us up into knots. They can make us high as a kite. Ultimately, what we do with what we have, to paraphrase from a movie, is what defines us. People don't understand what I go through, and in some respects, that's actually a really good thing. I try to make a lot of what I go through as transparent as possible. I mean, how many times have I been on the show and said about how it's tough being a single dad, or tough being a widower at 35, and dealing with all of what we deal with. But that's my story. That's my thread. That's where I am, and that's not where everybody else is, and that's not where almost anybody else is. So if you feel that you've been struggling with trying to deal with trying to cope with all the stuff that's been hitting you at once, it's okay. It's okay to take some time out for yourself and to just vegetate. Read for no other reason other than that you can, to walk, to photograph the leaves as they're changing color, which you got a really good camera. You know, you can get some really, really gorgeous images these days. Or you could do something that's, well, you could do something that's just stupid and start reading jokes. I found this I found this Tumblr blog because of Twitter, and I have absolutely found ways of trying so hard not to laugh out loud, and it has been an absolute challenge. Yes, I know it's pony related, but I don't care. These are exceptionally wonderfully bad jokes. Why did the math book go to the psychologist? How timely for this show. It had too many problems. What? Yes, these are groaners.
Yeah.
19 and 20. 19 and 20 got into a fight. 21.
What?
Why are you doing this to us?
Stop. Because I can. Only one more.
Oh.
Never stop.
What does one call a cow that plays the tuba? A musician.
Musician.
That was the worst.
That doesn't even qualify for dad jokes.
No.
That does.
What do you call a one-legged cow? Steak.
The point is,
see, they should have those for tipping in Wisconsin.
No, those are two-legged cows. That's lean beef.
Oh.
Oh my.
Wouldn't that be stilts? Oh, anyway.
There's nothing wrong with taking some time for absurdity. Because sometimes that's all you can do.
And cat videos.
Right.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
gotta have the cat videos.
As always, everyone, thank you very much for your time and spending part of it with us. We hope that you found something worthwhile in all of our perspectives and have something to think about and something to discuss for later. Let me go ahead and thank the panel for being with us, and I'm going to remind you, don't go leaving after we close up shop, because I want to make sure I get all of your information so I can put it into the show notes. Louis, thank you. I'm glad I was able to get you finally. I know it was very last minute, and thank you exceptionally so much for that.
Absolutely, you're welcome, Shujin. Even if I was like a last minute because nobody else was available invite, I'll still take it. It's nice to be a part of the land of radio on YouTube.
Even though you're visually a radio, which the irony media is completely off the... If anybody wants to get in touch with you, what can how can we tell them to get in touch with you? Or do you even want to be in touch with?
I'm a terrible, like, normal person. I don't have an internet presence. You can find me on YouTube. Well, not on YouTube. You can find me on Facebook or Twitter. On Twitter, I'm Louis Mendez 64, and I'm friends with all the cool people. And if you aren't friends with them, don't try to friend me.
He's friends with me. I don't know why.
And beyond that, you could try to listen to me on IFS, the iFriends Show, or the Imaginary Friends Show.com podcast, if they still call it that, which I don't think they do.
It's not a real podcast anymore under that.
Oh.
Yeah,
Well,
I know. I asked him about that too, and it's just like, I can't find that. It's like, I haven't used that in years.
Yeah, I think it's just iFriends.
Yeah,
The iFriends podcast. Check it out on your favorite podcaster. Wow,
that doesn't Imaginary podcast.
Yeah, iFriends is it used to be the Imaginary Friends Show.com podcast. Anyway, I sometimes guest on that show with Jake Farwarden and his other co-conspirators like Shujin Tribble.
I'm subscribed.
Well, then you may have heard my voice before, and I apologize.
Perfectly fine. Maddy, also, thank you for joining us, especially as last minute and all. Wonderful to have you. And unfortunately, I won't be able to hear you because your radio station won't make it over here to Buffalo at 9 in the morning. At night, it might. But that's all.
It'd be 10 in the morning for you because you're on the East Coast.
But
not to worry. We are podcastable as well. So
funny. I was just gonna say, there must be some way that we can hear you.
Totally.
I was gonna ask about long wave, but anyways.
No, yeah. Well, we're AM radio, so I imagine. No, we're not a huge station.
Technically, it's long wave, technically. But anyway, going on.
So you can find us broadcasting live on AM 950 KTNF on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. in Minnesota. We're also podcastable. It's Atheists Talk. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter. Just search Facebook for Atheist Talk. And then you can find my own show, a Minnesota Trans-Atheist, is also on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Trans-Atheist Pod, or head over to my show page, which is thequeerlife.org/category/Trans-Atheist Pod, or just go to thequeerlife.org and click the Trans-Atheist Pod button. That's probably easier than remembering the rest of it. So yeah, we have a lot of fun.
Thank you. And yes, I will make sure that all of the clicky links are available in the show notes, so you don't have to go typing everything all on your own. Yes, because that's kind of what I try to do. Joseph, thank you very much for joining us, even though I'm going to kick your ass for actually showing up when you should have gotten yourself to sleep.
Yeah, sorry if I was a bit curmudgeonly, but...
Oh, no, not at all. Perfectly acceptable, perfectly fine. I'm so kicking your ass off the show next time.
Well, I can dump all I've been through over the last 24 hours on your ass after we're off air if you want.
Who's that?
I'll consider that. Thank you for your time. Do you want to plug anything or any links?
Nothing to plug for now. No, I haven't even made any rants recently. So just thanks for having me on, and greetings to all of you.
You say that now.
And
Joey.
Pleasure to make two new acquaintances.
True enough. Joey, thank you for making it, and you take good care of yourself, man. You can get back to sleep soon.
You can't tell me what to do.
Yes, I can.
He has a gun.
Who has a gun?
Joey.
I don't have a gun with me right now.
I got a gun over in that corner. It's actually behind a sword, but I've got a gun.
Is it
They
a
can
Nerf
have a
gun?
fight over who's going to sleep first.
No, the Nerf guns are actually from me. It's over there in the spare bedroom. The ammunition's actually in the kitchen,
Right next to the Nerf grenade.
Wow. Separating the ammo for your Nerf guns. That's taking things a little too literally.
I have a teenager in the house. You tell me. Am I really going too far?
Slippery slope.
Anyway, you have a good morning, Joey. Thank you very much for the smiles.
Yeah. Just for the folks here. Yeah, no, I promised cat videos. Have dog pictures instead.
Let's see about
Thank
that
you.
in a little bit. Heretic Woman. Remember we were talking about trying to figure out what we're doing for our own shows and setting them up in time. You've got ready. You've got show notes and ready stuff kind of going on. Don't you?
Yeah. So, of course, Beyond the Trailer Park Mondays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, and I just happened to get Bryce Blankenegel to come on tomorrow night, or I guess it's tomorrow night now. I know. He was gonna pop on with us tonight, but he was already out at a movie when I pinged him. So, unfortunately, but he's gonna come on with me on Monday night with the ladies. So that'll be fun. And in 2 weeks we have another guest the following week, but on the 23rd, and this is kind of fun, as sort of a precursor to Halloween, Professor Steven is going to join us, and we are going to do a movie review on something called Mazes and Monsters.
Oh my gosh. This, dear listener, is a film you must see.
Yes, I
Preferably
haven't
with a laugh
watched it
track.
yet. I haven't watched it yet, but I will have to before we do the review with Professor Steven. But,
It's like a film adaptation of the famous D&D Chick Tract.
That's what I thought it was going to be.
Yep, it's I've seen it, and all I can say about the ending is shamalama.
It's a
Alrighty
genuinely awful movie. Enjoy.
Yeah, I plan to. Yes, I found there's a so-so version on YouTube that I had queued up, and the first 30 seconds were cheesy enough. I can only imagine what the rest is going to be like. So, but that's on the 23rd. So that's a little ways to go yet. But
Tom Hanks, no less.
Yeah. So I thought I would mention that because we're totally looking forward to it.
I wonder if that's on his curriculum vitae.
I don't know. It'd be interesting to see.
I wonder how far you have to scroll on IMDb to find it.
Find it. But anyway, so yeah, that's Monday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern is when we do that. And like I said, I hinted earlier that I will probably have a new project soon, but it's like really, really early planning stages. So I want to have some more work done on it before I get into that too much. But I'm something I'm looking forward to. Oh, and if you're curious, if you want more details about the conference incident that we were discussing earlier, I did appear on Atheist Republic's channel on Tuesday to discuss it with Armin Navabi. And so if you want to see that, and just for the record, Armin does the devil's advocate side for all of his guests. So yes, he was arguing against me, but that's what he does for everyone. So please don't think he's a shitlord, because he's not. Just had to throw that out there. He said that at the beginning of the show too, but Armin's a little soft-spoken at times, so I didn't want anybody to miss that because, yeah. He put me through my paces, I have to say, so he did a good job. But
Excellent. So, thank you guys for being with us. Yeah, I was not very much paying attention to the number of viewers that we've got tonight. So all of you that were paying attention tonight for us, thank you very much. I know over in the Discord, Layla, Trippin, Stephanie, Aubrey, that may be all that's been watching. That's okay tonight. But guys, thank you very much for being with us. Hope that you had yourselves a good time. If you'd like to be in touch with us, if you'd like to follow along with all the social media links as well as the audio podcast, you can go ahead and swing over to holycrapthevlogcast.com. All the links that you're going to need are over there. Dalan, who is not feeling real good today, did a recent audio upload, mass upload. Oh my God, he did like a shit ton of them. This is what happens, man. He gets around to it when he gets around to it, which is great, and I greatly appreciate it because he works hard when he does all of that. If you'd like to leave us a voicemail message, that is 859-HCTV-554, 859-4288-554. And yes, for a change, I actually remembered to go double checking what our address is. If you would like to support us, even though I don't push this very often, I should remember about it. Yes, we do have a Patreon set up. If you'd like to hit us over there, it is patreon.com/HCTV. Thank you very, very much. I have no idea what's going to be happening up for next week. All I know is that I'm working on a video series of my own. I want to go finding it over under the YouTube channel for Shujin Tribble. You can find The Brick in the Black. No, I'm not going to give you any more explanation. You're really interested, you can find out about it a little bit later from there. But in the meantime, we all got to get ourselves out of here. And like I mentioned before, guests do not leave just so I can get all your information. But otherwise, for all of the rest of you, as always, I wish you the peace I no longer have. I wish you the strength that I've learned. I wish you well. And as always, as I say, 12 years on Hun. I am still in love. Matane Fujin. I love you. I miss you. Dream of me. Till the next time we get together, everyone, as always, good night.